Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my brother in crime, a man who's always on the hunt, no matter how challenging it may be. A man who knows the difference between the hunter and the hunted. You'll never catch him having to get to the chopper! Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Andrus.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you liked it.
I've got one for you, too.
What is that? Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. It's so good to see you.
It is.
Everybody mask up.
Oh, for real. It is really good to see you, too, Andrus, because when we first thought about talking about the movie that we're going to talk about today, unfortunately, it has come home after, a handful of years. The Pull Focus family has, unfortunately, had to deal with COVID. Fully recovered, though, Andrus. I'm glad you're doing okay. I'm sorry that you had to deal with the plague. And I'm so very, very happy that, you were healthy when you had to be, and you took the proper precautions, and now you're here, and we can finally talk about this movie, and I'm very happy to see you.
Well, yeah, my family's been talking about the apocalypse my entire life, and I just survived.
They just talk about it. You lived through it. That's
yeah. No, I've been through every aspect.
Good Lord, man.
Walking Dead. It's good to be here, and I'm really excited to be talking about like a throwback movie.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm stoked about this. What have you been up to?
I have been doing the do. Luckily because of the way things have calmed down a little bit. I did a little bit of traveling, visited some family. But man, after I heard about like you coming down with COVID, like right after I got back from visiting family in another state. And I want you to know, like I specifically, we took tests on the trip. We were careful there, and then I heard about you, and I was like, let's just do it again. And we made sure that we were negative afterwards. Luckily, my mother and I, who is 80 some odd years old, who's the one I really worry about when it comes to like that kind of thing. We're both, and you too. Like your mom. Like we could do a whole separate podcast on that.
We could do a mama cast
for real. But yeah, we're doing okay, and I'm very happy to see that you're doing okay. And that was the biggest thing, really, because we haven't spoken in about a month because we had to push things back.
Right.
And it's just a combination of, just being thankful for where we're both at, and honestly the family that I have in my life, and having the privilege and the good fortune to have the time and the opportunity to just have a podcast where I'm talking to a good friend of mine that is just about movies and stuff. I mean, it could be worse. You know what I mean? That's what I've had a heavy dose of perspective the past few weeks, and that's always a healthy thing, I think.
Well, I never pictured my life as a movie.
100%.
Because I was always an actor, growing up before the casting, before all of that, right? I still am an actor, but the idea of really saying, "Oh yeah, no, my life is a movie. Who's gonna play me?"
Right.
Oh my gosh, the entire world has
for real
now.
For real.
Like, so many things.
Everybody has a story. They're not, and it goes over the entire. Like we could, if we just called a couple of our close friends and talked to them about like how the past 2 years been, we would have a handful of screenplays. Everybody has done so much and have tried new things and have remembered, the important things that they already knew and all this other stuff. It's been like this really huge kind of reckoning of retrospective experimentation and all kinds of things. It's and just like I think it's times when I was finally able to get out of my cave here and visit family and reconnect with a couple people that really shown out. It was really just, man, everybody is surviving. We're all just surviving. And it's just like this. It boggles my mind, quite honestly. It's an amazing thing. It really is. It's very humbling to see what different people have to go through, what they've been able to do, and yeah, man, it's inspiring. I think it's crazy.
I think so too. So yay, let's be inspired by life and the pursuit of being hunted.
Being hunted, absolutely. We're going to talk about Prey.
Why do you want to hunt? Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready. Muy bonita. There's something out there. I'm coming with you.
You can't.
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what? It's time.
It knows how to hunt. I know how to survive. Whatever did this, I can kill it.
And that was the trailer for Prey, everybody. This has been something that we want to talk about since it came out. Prey originally was released during Comic-Con. It has gotten a lot of great press, has gotten a lot of motivation, but also a lot of momentum too. And also, seeing as Andrus and I are children of the 80s and 90s, you're listening to two Predator franchise fans right here, and this being the fifth official canon movie in the Predator franchise. I'm very happy to see that it's come out. It's come to a good reception. From the IMDb synopsis, Naru, a skilled warrior of the Comanche Nation, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to land on Earth. This movie takes place back in the 1700s, roughly like around 1719, and it drops immediately with the first time that a predator has landed on Earth and fought humans. Now, I know what you guys are saying. The people who just watched this movie and they just came to find out that there actually has been Predator movies from, back in the 80s and up into most recently 2018. You might not, you might be gelling with this, okay? To my diehard fans out there, we're not talking about the crossover series, because I know that we're going to get this in the comments a lot. This is a Predator franchise movie. It's not an Alien versus Predator. I know we have some fans out there who are all about, I loved Alien versus Predator back in 2004, or, when Requiem came out in 2007, the sequel to Alien versus Predator. No. Because they were making this a big part of the commercialization and everything for Prey, which quite honestly, because it came out as a Hulu movie, a Hulu original, and originally streaming, it didn't have a lot of press behind it in the first place. But they made it a big deal saying, hey, you know what? This is actually going to be canon. This is going to be a Predator canon. It's not going to be a situation where we're dealing with those crossovers with the aliens and that kind of stuff. And it's a good thing, too, because if you thought that those Alien movies were part of the entire Predator franchise, then technically, aliens and the predators have been around on Earth in that headcanon since, the ancient Mayans and that kind of stuff, which I never liked. So I'm very happy that creatively, at least from the point of getting with the canon of the series and everything, studios came out and they said, hey, you know what? No, this is the real thing. This is an official part of the franchise. We're ignoring that alien stuff. That was fun back in the 2000s, but everybody was crazy and high on meth. No, they weren't. Sorry. Everybody was doing all kinds of crazy stuff in the 2000s. If you guys could see Andrus's face right now, it's a good thing it was an audio podcast and not a video podcast. But that's something that I thought was interesting to point out, and something that honestly I appreciated. Prey was a 2022 American science fiction action horror film, we're reading from the wiki, based on the Predator franchise. It is the 5th installment and is a prequel to the first 4 films, being set in the northern Great Plains in North America in 1719. The film is directed by Dan Trachtenberg from Cloverdale fame, and written by Patrick Asen. It stars Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, Dane DeLiegro, Michelle Trush, Stormy Kipp, Julian Black Antelope, and Bennett Taylor. The story revolves around Naru, a skilled Comanche warrior who is striving to prove herself as a hunter. She finds herself having to protect her people from a vicious humanoid alien that hunts humans for sport, as well as from French fur traders who are destroying the buffalo they rely on for survival. Andrus, when we're dealing with a action film that is steeped with history, we're talking about a franchise that spans from the first movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger that was released back in 1987. There's a lot of weight to it. What were your feelings when you found out that they were making a 5th Predator movie? And was it something that got you excited as kind of a fan of the structure of these films, or was it something where it was like, ugh, this is such a cash grab, so on and so forth? How did you think when you first realized it was coming out and that people were paying attention to it?
I didn't. No. And I didn't know. It had just happened and it released, and word of mouth trickled through the. You may have been the one that told me about it, right? So yeah. Honestly, I had no idea.
Isn't it weird? Yeah, I thought that was very strange. It
is weird because it is basically a start over in the franchise.
100%.
This is before technically what Arnold's crew worked on.
Yeah, so.
Man, child of the '80s, Predator. You just do. I don't know if you're a boy or a girl or doesn't matter. It's a child of the '80s. I think you were exposed to that kind of content.
Yeah.
And it was bloody, and it was awesome, and it was just brutal man versus alien that's way more powerful than man.
Yeah.
And even the idea of it's against commandos, and there's this damsel in distress scenario. There's all of these things that are happening. Man, these badasses are getting picked off
like
one
nothing
after the other.
So I mean,
just the entire idea of just how powerful this Predator was.
Yeah.
And the idea that they're putting it back against, bows and arrows and hatchets. I'm like, what?
I thought it was an interesting concept too. I was like, how are they going to do this? It was only until later that we find out the creature design that came into it that it was a little more believable, but still, I don't know.
I gotta give props to production design.
100%. Yeah.
Everything that went into this one, because even though it's a pretty far stretch that anybody is capable of going against a predator and surviving and winning.
Yeah.
But just the amount of chaos that comes into it and all of that, I kind of really liked it.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of really liked it. So
I think that they were able to build off of something that I think they were actually able to really perfect with the 2018 film. I know it didn't come out in 2018. I mean 2010 with Predators. We have a simple structure that's set up. We have, this very powerful force that at first we think is completely unbreakable. It is, this advanced alien that has a capability of being able to, go invisible, hunt whoever it wants, skins them alive, and so on and so forth. And it's really like this, for lack of a better analogy, like the David versus Goliath kind of thing, where we have like the hero or the group of heroes that, because they don't because they're lacking in technology, they have to, score one for the human race and prove that, with the right kind of charisma, the right kind of planning, and the home field advantage. Well, not in the Predators movie that came out in 2010, but close enough. Definitely with this one, with the home field advantage, they have the capability of using their smarts a little bit. In the first 5 minutes who's going to survive and who's going to die. That this movie is going to be ridiculously predictable. But then the question that comes out that nobody can answer until you're done watching it is, okay, how are they going to fulfill the equation? How are they going to prove to us that the hero, or in this case, heroine, are smart enough and deadly enough to actually go toe-to-toe with this unstoppable force? What were your thoughts specifically in regards to now? This is the first time not the first time that we've had a female protagonist going for the Predators, but the first time that she's the only real protagonist here. We have our female version of Arnold Schwarzenegger of Naru, played by the very capable Amber Midthunder. What were your feelings when you found out? Okay, they have this person in here instead of another 6'10", 500-pound muscle machine. Do you think it was a smart move to make? I already know what you're going to say, but I found it kind of refreshing. I didn't think it was like, they were trying to pretend it was something that it wasn't, or that they were just putting Naru in there just for the sake of having a woman in there. I think it made sense to the story, and I liked it. What were your feelings about it?
No, I love her story in combination to the Predator story, because she's already on spoiler central, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts.
If you haven't watched,
spoiler alerts.
Oh, it's on repeat.
Spoiler alerts.
So it's a big spoiler.
Yeah, it is a big spoiler. If you guys haven't seen Prey, go watch it, and then come back and listen to what we thought about it, and then find out if you agree with us, because we're going to talk about everything. We're going to spoil everything for you.
I'm going to spoil it right now.
You've been right now. You've been warned. Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, so just the idea that she's going on this hunting journey for herself to become a warrior in her tribe. I think it's very fitting that now there's this even more threatening idea of a predator than the local jaguar. What was it?
The mountain lion.
Mountain lion. I'm just like, it was dark. So, which there is a scene where they go, they fight each other, which is pretty crazy that didn't just end up with her, completely
decimated,
eaten.
I think like one of the things too that comes into play is they do put in like these little bits in the first and second act. The third act is all the final battle, which I thought was done very well. The pacing in this movie, very good. And they're dealing with a simple process, because all they have to do is they have to first off introduce the strength of the protagonist, introduce the strength of the predator, and then maybe add in some other things that are going to make things a little more difficult and prolong the waiting for the final battle in the third act. And I think they did all that very well. In the first act, we were able to establish that Naru was not somebody to be underestimated and refused to be underestimated in her tribe. She and her brother, who is the big hunter, the heir to the throne, Tabe, played by Dakota Beavers. He's the best hunter in the tribe, and he's set up to be the next war chief. And we find that out because he is able to kill the mountain lion, but not until Naru was able to stab it and weaken it. Which he, being a good big brother and also just being a good person, he lets her know before the end of the movie that he wasn't able to do it without her. But it's like this situation where we come with somebody who's being underestimated by everyone, who not only needs to prove to them that she's more capable and wants to live her life her way, but she has to prove it to herself too. And I think that's kind of like this parallel journey that she has. Naru doesn't believe in herself really until the third act, where she realizes that if she doesn't kill the predator, she's going to die. And at that point, she becomes a real warrior. And at that point, she's able to accept herself for taking on that responsibility. What was the pacing like for you? Because we definitely both, I think, suffer from the situation where, again, like I mentioned before, after the first act, you know exactly who's going to get killed by this thing and who's going to survive. But how was the pacing for you when it came to introducing how the protagonist was dealing with her life in her community and how she's going to change? And also, what were your feelings about, like, Stormy Kipp, who played Wasape? He was, trying to stop Naru from doing her thing. There were some other actors that were doing wonderful portrayals of Native Americans. And also, we got to talk about the casting, too. But how is the pacing? How is the setup when it came to the points of drama here? Was it working for you, or was it too fast or too slow when it was going through the movie for you?
I would say I really enjoyed the pacing in it. And there's only one hiccup for me, and that's her post-injury recovery.
Yeah.
I think that was too quick to get her back up on her feet from such a... I mean, if it's real life, maybe there's a longer rehabilitation before she gets back out, but again, it's there's an immediate threat, and what do? You
have to get up and fight. Sure,
get up and fight. So I mean, it was within the scope of believability, but it was far stretched too.
I think that the way in which they were able to kind of push that too is like they made it so quick when it came to the main characters getting injured and getting back, because they had to put in different points. Like she falls down out of a tree when the mountain lion gets her, and then she also almost gets killed by the predator the first time, but she gets caught in a trap, and then she gets caught by the French fur traders. And I think that's why they had to put the fur traders in there, because it was like, it was like, well,
there needed to be a secondary threat and a distraction.
100%.
And a distraction, yeah. So.
And I think it was also good where we had, like, Mike Patterson, who played Big Beard, who was the big French fur trader guy, didn't speak a word of English throughout there, which was fun. And then we had Nelson Lease, who played Wax Mustache, who was the translator. He kind of knew a little bit of Comanche, and he was able to, and it was put through English in the film. It's important to keep in mind too that this movie came out with two separate points. Trottenberg was big on having proper representation, and we are going to get into that when we talk to you about casting too, because that was a great point that I think we should talk about a bit. But Trottenberg made sure, because he thought it would be appropriate, and so did the writers and the production team, that on every take they did an English version, but then they also did a version that was in Comanche, which is available on Hulu and Disney Plus currently. And my first playthrough on this was just in the American version. It isn't a dub because the actors
they crisscross.
They crisscross, exactly. But it was really interesting, and I think honestly pretty special and really nice to have. I mean, this was I'm sure it was more complicated than just going through and going back to one and doing takes and that kind of stuff. There was definitely some organization, but technically speaking, it's not a hard thing to do. I mean, when you're dealing with like a movie like this, and it's a situation where, it's made to be a blockbuster, there's a lot of, dollars per minute and that kind of thing. But technically speaking, it's not hard to get on the clapper and say, okay, take 2A, and then do the entire scene over in a language that the actors speak fluently anyway, or at least were trained to during the training camps that they took, with also the physical conditioning and everything prior to production. When it comes to like the way in which, I don't know, I don't want to keep... I get a little wary of using the word representation, right? Because, I know it has a lot of weight for some people, and it comes about in ways in which I don't understand personally. But, I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. And I still like the English version better because I was able to follow it better. But why aren't more movies doing that, do you think? And like, is it just because, does it work better with like this genre, or is it just because of the story that unfolded? Why not put extra production into having more representation when it comes to, Native Americans or Creole, or, even like, French fur traders or anything that comes into play? What were your feelings about that when you found out that, like, this is part of the pre-production, something that was carried out throughout the shooting of the film?
If you're going to distribute it and you know what your distribution plan is, I think it's incredibly smart.
I love it how you keep it down to earth like that. See, I didn't even think about that. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's a business side too. So, I mean, you've got to know what your plan is, and if you're capable of achieving your goals in your plan. So I think the fact that they did it in English and native languages, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Because that also gave them options in the actual cut for the English version.
Oh,
of it
100%.
I really liked how they went back and forth between including us with their language and including us with the language that I speak and understand.
I think it feels like they're treating the audience like adults. Like
finally, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a long time since movies do that.
Yeah.
You don't need to sugarcoat it. You don't need to explain everything. We're pretty savvy.
Yeah. And that can be, that's refreshing from time to time.
I enjoyed that side of it for sure.
Awesome. Carrying through with the movie, like we have the first act where we have Naru introduced. We find out who her friends and who her rivals are, and then towards the end point of the first act, we have her goals and everything established very easily. I think that they did a really good job of making sure that she had a very loving brother in Dakota Beaver-Sabe. At the same time, she had a really big rival with Stormy Kipps Wasape, and it really did prove, especially when she's like speaking with her mother Aruka, who was played really well by Michelle Thrush, and had support of from other actors that were doing a very good job of playing these traditional kind of like treadstones of the community. Julian Black Antelope played Chief Kahitu, and Stephanie Mathias played Sumu, the chief's wife. And right away, we get this idea that Naru is a big fish in a small pond, and she wants to get out of there. Through the second act, we're then introduced to the Predator, who was brilliantly played by Dane DeLiegro. Now, Dane's been doing stuff when it comes to creature effects and doing different things. He was, you've been able to see his face in a number of things, but he does have a great history of being able to work as one of the creature actors in Hollywood, like one of these capable individuals who puts on the suit and is able to speak with their their physicality. Prey is the most recent thing that he's been in, but he has also been monsters in like the American Horror Stories. He's been able to do foreign films like Sweet Home, where he was the muscle monster in 2020. He was also in Disney Plus's The Quest, which is still about to come out. Let me double check and see when that's coming up. No, it was released in May, so he's been doing work with that too. And he did a great job with his personification of the Predator. You have this guy who has to get in a rubber suit, who is standing at like close to 7 feet tall, who has to put on all this heavy gear and this animatronic stuff, and he's able to just become this monster. And that's really hard because he's not speaking or anything like that. He's just, if you guys were to check on YouTube and also on like the Hulu shorts and everything, you would see some behind the scenes stuff. And it's these great points where Trottenberg is out there and he says, sound speeds, background, action, roar, 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 and he's giving just these vocal directions to DeLiegro, and DeLiegro silently is just flexing his muscles inside the suit and putting up his hands and using these weird kind of like monstrous like predator-like movements that don't look human. And I really enjoy the idea of like the hard work that that actors have to put into when it comes to becoming that character and not being able to like be front of camera with their face there. He was wearing like 40 to 50 some odd pounds of animatronic gear when they put the Predator head on his shoulders, and they have puppeteers that are working the teeth and doing this and that, which I thought was interesting. How did the effects hit you? Because this one had a really good mix, I think, really leaning back into the old Predator stuff, where they were learning from like Aliens and Cameron, they were learning from like Total Recall and that kind of thing, where they had really good practical effects, but nowadays, you could do this all CGI, and they decided not to. What were your thoughts about like how things were working on that end, how it was popping out on the screen and everything?
For the most part, I really appreciated it. The technology side of it was fun when we got to see that, but most of it was practical. So woo woo.
Yeah, for sure.
Practicals.
I did like how we could see that this was definitely an older Predator. How like they had the evolution, because like in the first movie back in '87, Arnold Schwarzenegger is in the jungle, and you guys see like the 3 red laser beams, and it's like a big bolt of lightning, and all of a sudden we have a soldier whose arm is missing, that kind of thing. In this movie, we had really more practical things that the Predator was dealing with. He's dealing with like like futuristic stuff, bombs and like that kind of thing, but he's shooting with bullets. he's shooting with like these big spears.
And there's a magnetic field to the bullets, which is pretty cool.
That was very cool. Yeah,
like they're more like spears. They're more like daggers. They're smaller spears.
That's a good call. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Or pens, I guess.
Pens would be a great way. Yeah. I always thought of them for a second as like those spikes that you use to keep tents, like pinned to the ground or something like that.
Oh, sure, a stake.
Yeah, duh. Okay, yeah, that's the word for it.
Yeah,
oh my
gosh. A stake. Let's call them steaks because why not? So they're pens.
They're pens.
So I mean, it's literally bows and arrows and hatchets against a controllable stake.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Did that kind of make it easier for you to kind of like, because I know we had like a suspension of disbelief, right? But like I was asking myself that question too. It's like, okay, this is a great concept. These guys have bows and arrows, and the Predator has this. He's got bombs and stuff. I think that was another reason as to why they put in the fur traders too, to be honest.
There was some symbolism between, I mean, there was throwback stuff to the original Predator, and there's also just the more equal playing field, bows and arrows, and I mean, she created, I don't know what the actual weapon is called, but tethering her dagger to a rope.
Her tomahawk, yeah, her axe for.
Was it the? I thought it was more of a knife than an axe.
I could be mistaken, but
I don't know.
You're right, though. You're right.
And I also have COVID brain, so there's.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. That is not something to laugh about. I apologize.
No, it's very funny. Hold on. The idea that she created
hold on. Let me cut you off real quick because my headphone jack just came out.
Oh,
okay. What were you saying? Say that again.
That was so sad. I got you so excited, I had you rip your equipment apart.
It's true. It happens on more than one occasion.
No, I think you're right. I think it was the tomahawk because I'm replaying the visuals in the back of my head,
sure.
And the way that it lands, and then she pulls back. But still, the fact that she's creative enough to explore some sort of adjustment
Absolutely.
To her weapon in order to level the playing field, or she actually does that for her own tribe first.
Yeah, right.
That's before she engages in the Predator.
Mm-hmm.
So we can already tell that she's adaptive and that she's
evolving.
She's on her feet and all of the things. She has to because she's a woman in a man's world.
That's
and
it.
All those things matter.
100%.
And I love the fact that they weren't so on the nose with that theme in this, but it wasn't out of place either.
Yeah.
I would imagine many females in a tribe would want to be a warrior and go out with the men. And I'm sure that because of
misogyny and sexism.
I mean, maybe not misogyny, but also just physicality.
Okay.
It's less practical for a woman to go out than a man unless they need somebody smaller and quicker and whatever the attributes are.
Sure.
So I think that that everything involved in there made a lot of sense for me, and the fact that she was so passionate about becoming a warrior just made it even more entertaining. The fact that she had like her best friend dog.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about the dog, dude.
That was just a special element to it too, because I mean,
unfortunately, her dog is not on the cast list, but
I know. I was looking for who the dog was.
Yeah.
I know. I did the same thing. But the fact that her brother is supportive, and then she also has another support in her buddy.
Yeah.
It just all of it really made sense as far as how the storyline progressed.
That's the thing, right? It made sense.
And also the outcome was believable. It wasn't just like, oh, here we go. It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, in the third act, she was able to go back to a mud pit that she had been in before, harking back to like how, this had a lot of Easter eggs in it. Maybe not Easter eggs, but it had a lot of nods to like the previous films.
Right.
And the
mud pit being one of them for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And she was able to like lure the Predator back in there. She steals his headset that is used to target things that the Predator uses those stakes for that magically go about and they don't miss their target. And the real good, she knows that this is going to work. because she saw the Predator use that weapon before in the movie. And I always am a fan of movies that can, in a competent way, use exposition and action instead of like just a quick line or something here or there to let us know, to give us a little more foreshadowing and set up rules in the universe that you're in, so that the characters can play within those rules and still do what they have to do in order to win. And this is it. So she stole the headset. She made it so that she looked like she was going to get killed by the Predator. The Predator comes in, and right when the Predator's about to strike, it steps into like the field of magnetism or whatever that the helmet is setting up, and Naru is able to use the Predator's weapons against it to ultimately kill it. And that great scene too, where she's a lot of suspense put up. It harkens back to Terminator 2. Harkens back to the Terminator, where you see this big monster coming, and the heroine is about to just does her thing, and she's able to defeat the monster in one fell swoop, and it's great. I think that the way in which the pacing for movies like this are outstanding in the Predator series, because this franchise has been blessed by having a lot of good directors and actors who are competent enough to understand what it really is, what the formula is, and how to make it happen. When you deal with an action movie like this, it is important for people to understand immediately what the rules are in the world that you're living in, what the expectation is when it comes to the power levels, and then what it's really about is about providing enough elements in the story so that we can get a good flow, a good pacing, and then just make it such a, how can I put this? A fireworks show, I guess, for lack of a better term. Some of the stuff that these actors were doing, the way in which that they were nodding to historical concepts, the way in which Naru was able to evolve her fighting style, and also just like, some of the historical things that came about that not only showed us that Naru's tribe was not only up against, this alien coming down with advanced weaponry that wanted to kill them, but also, racism, prejudice, and the loss of their land and their resources from, French fur traders. This was a part of history in the Americas, and it's something that I imagine, at least I'm making an assumption here, but something that I think people from who are within tribes still have to deal with today, unfortunately. But it's good to have that reminder. But the film never forgets what it is. It's not Dances with Wolves. It's a Predator movie, but it still is able to touch on these things in ways that don't bogart what the main mission of the movie is, and that's to be a good action film. So I think you make such really good points in that, as usual. Reading from the wiki here, filming occurred in Calgary, Alberta, Canada in 2021, primarily in First Nation land, 45 minutes outside the city, with studio set pieces including the Beaver Dam, where Naru hides from a bear, and the fur trapper camp where she baits the Predator. The cast preceded filming with 4 weeks of training camp, working with weapons and personal trainers. While team building, they conceived a sign language for the characters to communicate non-verbally, which was used throughout the film. Super cool point. Mid-Thunder had a particular focus on axe throwing, which led to her and Trottenberg adding a rope for quick recovery. Jane Myers, a member of both the Comanche Nation and the Blackfeet Nation, served as a producer on the film. Describing filming near Calgary, Myers stated, quote, "We are shooting on Stony Nakota land." Mid-Thunder is part Nakota. Even I am on my grandmother's side. Usually when we start a production, someone from the native community comes in and does a cedar ceremony and blesses everything. But because we had so many indigenous people on the cast, First Nation people too, and since we were on the True Plains land, they sent out 2 pipe carriers and 2 smudge people to have a pipe ceremony. The pipe ceremony was conducted outside Calgary by local indigenous leaders and attended by Mid-Thunder and her co-star, Beavers and Kip, as well as Myers and Trottenberg, among others. When you can tell that this movie is able to do the things that it does, I think, because the entire production had respect for the history that it was trying to represent. I found that so refreshing. And it was just these little things that I know cost money, right? We were talking about it before where, if you're going to have 2 tracks of audio, you're going to talk extra production time, and you're going to talk like you have to play with deadlines and that kind of thing. But it's so refreshing to be able to see that people were taking this seriously. It wasn't just this weird imagery that people are going to put it up where it's like, oh, it's an alien against Native Americans. Here we go. They had respect. And I think that's that you can see that in the movie because the movie has quality when it comes to its believability with this. What are your feelings when, like, you know, we're talking about how this movie was affected from just respect from the history, from the time frame that it took place in?
No, I think it's only appropriate.
Only appropriate, yeah.
I mean, you know, huge respect for that scenario. I've been a part of
right.
Ute tribe blessings, and man, if you can be a part of one of those ceremonies, they're valuable.
Yeah, I can respect that 100%.
is the best way to put it. It's very special. So very, very much connecting.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
Coming from an acting perspective, like they did work like, you know, weeks in before primary photography to team build. How important is that when it comes to, especially like this isn't, you know, forgive me, all the rom-com lovers and all that kind of thing. This was technically a very complicated film. We're dealing with multiple locations that we have ABC, probably D camera too, when it comes to different teams that are set up for setting up different shots. There is so much stuff that's happening when it comes to safety and coordination. How important is it for a cast to gel with a movie specifically like this when it comes to just, like, you know, set safety and that kind of stuff?
Specifically like this / anything that requires wartime scenarios.
100%. Like the scene
or
where they have like
battle-oriented scenarios
where they have like the burning forest where they're trying to like smoke the predator out. Like I love that scene, but I can't tell you how many times, Andrus, I was thinking, dude, they got to have fire protocol. They have ambulances like right around the corner. I mean,
or they're digitally putting it in and using some practical smoke and stuff like that, you know. I'm not sure what they did with those scenarios, but as far as like a boot camp scenario or a training camp scenario, so many productions do that. One, it really does build rapport amongst the actors and the stunt people and everybody involved in that, in those scenes and in those scenarios. But the other side of it too is, I mean, you're pulling so many different aspects of a production together in one. So it's like the cogs of the machine, and getting them spinning and working in unison so that it's a very smooth production is always a good idea.
Sure.
Any production that I've been on where they've done rehearsals first, the filming goes more smoothly because of those rehearsals.
You end up saving time, quite honestly.
There's a reason people do it.
What are some of the challenges you think they dealt with? Because this was primary photography here was outdoors, like they were dealing with the elements.
And environmental. That's absolutely what my answer was going to be. Landscape and technology don't necessarily mix. So I would imagine they ran into several problems, whether that was equipment related, machine related, or internet land related situations. I'm pretty sure they ran into several.
I think that when we deal with the way in which production is taking out now, I mean, again, it's been a long time since I've been behind the camera, and I still have my kit here for, like, you know, audio stuff and everything like that. But I would be excited to see the different things that they had to put into play when it came to doing things in the outside, especially considering that primary photography began roughly. Let me see if I can find out specifically where it was. It was announced mid-20 release. Take a look on filming here. It was primarily going to be started around. I think it started like in 2021, like a little bit before the holiday season. Primary photography was taking place in Canada. So we're talking about, a couple months worth of photography and then like post and everything. So it came out recently here this summer of 2022.
Now you're saying the holidays, right? You said that?
Yeah.
That means what? September?
Yeah, roughly. September, October, something like that, yeah.
In the mountains?
Oh, yeah. Get out of here, right? Oh, dude. No way.
No, they ran into a lot of problems.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's intense.
Yeah, there was some really, really cool, interesting things happening throughout that movie. So I would imagine the environmental issues happened
up. Let's now dive in a lot, because I think the most important thing about this is, first, it was a good movie. It was a good Predator movie. This movie's not going to win any Oscars or anything like that. But if you guys were going to do, I've done it before. If you're going to have a Predator marathon, put on Prey, and then it's going to fit right in to the stuff that's being that you've come to expect from one of the most capable action adventure horror, maybe. I mean, sometimes Predator's called a horror movie. I don't really fall into it that way, but I can respect when people say that. But when it comes to that kind of franchise that's been going on for over 30 years and has been able to make box office records with releases that come about. This being the only of the franchise that was just streaming is, we're not going to get any kind of like weird numbers when it comes to box office or anything. We talk about like budget and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, we do know that for a decent amount of time, it was the most watched feature on Hulu. And that usually means we're talking about people are turning this thing on in the millions when it comes to the streaming service itself. That being said, let's jump in a bit to specialities a bit, Andrus, because I really wanted to pick your brain about this. This movie has more Native American people, First Nation representatives than almost any other production. Not necessarily in history, but definitely like within the past decade. What kind of challenges does a casting agent go through when the goal is proper representation? What kind of things do they have to consider when they're going about, and bar none, not for bad reasons and not for anything except to have historical accuracy in a fictional science fiction action adventure, but also proper representation for people who have not been represented as much as they should be in Hollywood? What are the challenges that you'd have to go through as a casting agent to get this cast? The majority, all of them are hail from some First Nation peoples. Amber Midthunder speaks Comanche. We have Michelle Trush, who has been a representative for Native American capabilities in Hollywood. I mean, that sounds like it's difficult to me, but I wouldn't know. What would you have to deal with?
Here's the answer, right? As a casting representative for any production, if they reach out to us and they say, we need some Indigenous, First Nation, and Native American casting, you call Renee Haynes.
Renee Haynes? Really? Okay.
She is known for
that's awesome.
Casting every single Native American, First Nations project.
That's awesome.
So we're working on the Horizon movies, which is Kevin Costner's new project.
Right.
We're also working on Yellowstone casting and 1923 casting. So guess who we call when we need?
Of course.
Yeah, literally. The world knows Renee Haynes is the person to go to.
That is so interesting to me. I love getting that insight.
Literally, it's just, it would be the same thing with any other nuanced or specific casting needs. Like if you need all of the Cirque performers, you find out whoever handles all of that. If you need this group, you find out who handles that. If you need this group, you find out who handles that.
And there she is,
and Renee Haynes is the answer.
Why don't we dig into that a little bit? Because Renee Haynes has an incredible,
just look at her list.
Incredible career.
Yeah,
I mean, just like the Twilight movies, Cowboys and Aliens, The Revenant. Yep. I mean, this she has been working since the early 90s. And
she did Dances with Wolves.
She did Dances with Wolves, exactly. I mean, just the pedigree that she has when it comes to the history and filmmaking is ridiculous when it comes to this particular strategy for casting, that kind of thing. That's intense. That's super intense to me. That's amazing.
And she's the nicest woman on the planet, too. So that doesn't hurt. She's very, very sweet.
Well, it doesn't hurt to be kind, right? Isn't that the rule? Put your head down, work hard, be kind, and good things are going to happen in Hollywood or entertainment in general.
why not?
Why not?
I consider everything with kindness.
I feel
that's my perspective.
But I imagine it has to be more like when we get to like local kind of situations too, right? Like if you're going to leave it all to Renee Haynes, that's great. But, we have people that are coming out of America going into Calgary. We have different things that are being set up here and there. What kind of challenges do you think they were dealing with besides just, Renee Haynes could probably handle all of it, but there had to have been some organizational situations that put up. There had to be some other challenges that fell into play.
Definitely. Anytime you go to a location, you're going to have location casting happen. So even though Renee Haynes is credited for the casting on that would be the majority of the people that were speaking in the film.
Gotcha.
Or represented as primary actors. All of the First Nations people that they found in Calgary were probably handled by somebody in the local sense.
I think that one of the big things that you can tell when it comes to the nature of this movie is specifically the size of the different departments that we can see up on IMDb.
It's a lot.
The one that takes the bulk in this one specifically is the visual effects. And I think that makes sense. Obviously, we have a lot of big push from art and stunts. I think also one of the things that kind of caught my interest was this is one of the biggest makeup departments that I've seen in a production. We're talking about easy like 50 some odd people. And it's specifically because we needed sculptors from Amalgamated Dynamics. We needed painters and fabricators for set design and scree and that kind of stuff. And it just goes to show, like, when you're dealing with creature features, especially when it comes to action, adventure, and everything, to your point, there are so many moving parts. It's really just the truth. Everybody's job is important, from like the PA to like the head stunt coordinator to director of photography on this. Everybody must have been like burning the candle at both ends because the turnaround on here was pretty fast, and they were dealing with environmental stuff. They were dealing with the situations that pop up with representation and competence when it comes to pacing. And honestly, we're also dealing with a pedigree of movie here. There is a lot on the shoulders of this team. You don't want a Predator movie to flop because we know what happens to that. Because we had AVP, we had the Alien vs. Predator series, and we had two films in that, and also the movie that came out in 2018, The Predator, was trying to copy specifically what was happening in Predator 2 and didn't do a very good job of it. It was a competent film, but this one I think was much better because it had better pacing and better story structure. That limited the merchandise, the comics, the capabilities for the IP for about 4 some odd years. And that's why I think it probably took so long. Back in the day when Predator was ridiculously hot with the franchise, we had a movie like every 3 years. And through that, we also had like a situation coming about when it came to extra IP, when it came to, Dark Horse Comics was making millions of dollars off of Predator because of those movies coming out. Then we see like, another one pops up in 2010. And then we don't see another movie coming out until 2018. And now 4 years later, we don't get a cinema break in regards to this. And I know that COVID and everything popped up as well. But we have like a streaming contender here, and it just goes to show where I get a lot of people talking to me about like how hard it is to make like historical dramas, or how hard it is to make a good romantic comedy, quite honestly, or even I think probably the hardest thing to make would probably be a really competent comedy. I think the comedy is probably a very hard genre to play in. I think because Hollywood makes so many blockbusters and action movies. I know this might sound ridiculous, but I just don't think people understand how hard it is to make a competent, good, well-paced movie, especially when you're dealing with subject matter when it comes to historical preference and respect of the people within, and then also just the technical capabilities that you have to be competent with when you're dealing with a creature feature. The Predator animatronics, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of puppetry here and CGI that comes up. It has to be tight, because if it doesn't look good, if the Predator doesn't look good in a Predator movie, then you're messed up, man. You're not going to get another...
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
Of course I do.
Oh, okay. How dare you? How dare you?
Of course.
I just think that, like, and this kind of like not proved my point, but it definitely kind of led me to believe that all of the pre-production the boot camps, the celebration of First Nation peoples, the competence when it came to the real creature features, the practical effects, and then the writing when you have a simple story, but one that understands the pacing has to be tight. I think that this movie hasn't gotten enough credit, and it bothers me a little bit because I think it's a really, really good Predator movie. I think it's a good action adventure movie, and I think people aren't watching it enough, that kind of thing. Still.
I would imagine it's had fairly good viewership, and I think because it is such a good movie, word of mouth will help.
Hopefully, we'll get like a sequel or something. But
yeah, I think so. And then I was gonna say, I mean, Amber Midthunder is terrific.
Yeah,
I've seen her for years, and she's been in a couple series that I've watched and enjoyed her performances in, and I thought that she was a fantastic choice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Physically and with her presence for this role.
She has such a capability of being a badass that you do not want to mess with, but also with these scenes with her brother, she's able to just provide you this fragility that she has love in her heart and that she wants to do this for her people. When you go about and you see that scene where Tabe, again played by the very talented Dakota Beavers, is killed by the Predator, and she can't afford to cry and mourn him, and she has to go into kill mode. You can see it on her face that she wishes she had more time to bury her brother, and she can't, and she just can't. It's kind of heartbreaking. But to prove your point, yeah, she's Amber has had great work in some of my favorite series. She was in Hell or High Water, which was a great movie, and also she was in Legion, which being a comic book fan, I really thoroughly enjoyed as Carrie Loudermilk, and she did a very good job in that as well.
It was such a weird series.
It was a weird series.
I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, me too. I think from a sound perspective, things here were pretty good. I mean, obviously, when we're dealing with like historical fiction, that kind of thing, really what you want to do is just try and be honorable to what things sounded like back in the day. I really love the musket shots. My favorite scene from a Foley perspective, because it pulled out all of the good stuff, was when the Predator was being tracked by the fur traders in the forest, and you saw him pull out his kit, man. Yeah. You saw him get the rotator shield, which was great. I heard original sounds in this, which is really cool. We were able to see the early versions of the Predators, like a wrist bomb going off, which is usually what they use to kind of if a Predator can't get their hunts taken care of, then it's better to die in battle than to live in shame. And that was remastered, and we had a really cool tectonic kind of shift when it came out sound wise. The magnetic nets that he threw out and the spears that he was using, all original sounds that I've never heard on another sound set, and that made me so very happy. And the muskets sounded like real muskets. And how do I know what muskets sound like? Because I've recorded muskets, ladies and gentlemen, and I do know what they really sound like in real life. And these ones sounded very good. So I was happy with that. The rest of the movie was kind of generic. You're going to get the usual clunk and booms when it comes to bow and arrows and that kind of thing. I'm always happy to find out what the new Predator is going to sound like. I know it's dorky, but I like it. And it ended up being really nice when the Predator roared, and it didn't sound like the Predators from like the previous movies. Super cool. I imagine that it must have taken a lot of hard work, but mixing and mastering this movie, especially during those action scenes, must have been fun as hell. And I'm very happy that it was able to be something that I could learn from for, when, I don't know, when Andrus and I start making claymation movies in the basement or something, and we need to, I don't know, put in sounds and stuff like that. I learned a couple things from this movie, and that's always very important.
Wonderfully said.
Thank you. But that being said, I think that pretty much covers everything that we have to say about the movie. If you guys think that the Prey was a valid addition to the Predator franchise, go ahead and let us know. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud. Go ahead and email us, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. And keep in mind, though Andrus and I are master hunters ourselves that have the capability of being... Never mind, don't look at me like that. Just remember, we may be wrong, but it's your job to tell us. Andrus, as always, thank you. Man, I'm going to be completely honest. When you told me that you got sick, I was worried about you. I know that you're taking proper precautions, but, you never know. I cannot tell you how happy I am to see you and to be able to talk with you. and I'm very, very happy you're doing better. And here's to never getting it ever again. I'm just happy to have you here and talk with you, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope to never have to go through the symptoms.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have you back. I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
That being said, guys, thank you so very much for listening to us. Reach out to us if you feel like it. But in the meantime, stay safe, be good to each other, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.